All right, up next, I have Daniel Honowski, Sue Llewellyn, Jeremy Samiek, and Dean Gruginski. This is my first ever Ignite with 4 people on stage at once. I don't know. Let's give a big cheer for them.
So you can do Hamilton in 5 minutes. Thank you for paying attention to us for 5 minutes. I want to talk about our new venture into development operations, which is Jeremy's team. It's a new concept for us. We're trying to build it into an enterprise model, and I brought the whole team with me to prove that they're not my imaginary friends. So before, we had lots of disparate teams doing their own thing, which means the process was, well, let's figure out how to deploy this, and then we'll try it again, and it falls apart, and we get back together. And then basically it's held together by email. You can do email, but not really what we wanted to do. So with the fix for that, I could come through and I could round up all the people that lead our agency and actually run their departments and just will them to do what we need to do to protect prod. But when prod is down, what do you do? So we found a tool. Oh, I have to speak closer to the microphone. We found a tool that will actually bring us all together in the SDETs, which is Sue, release management, which is Jeremy, database, which is Dean. And so with the developers, their role is just to do the job like they've always done. TFS is well known. It's part of every shop I've ever been to. You write your code and it ends up somewhere. But that's where the story changes for us. It actually starts the initialization process. So the build is actually what packages all the different components. It will package for tests. It will package our release and configuration variables. It will actually package the database for us and hand that off to the next phase.
Hey, so with every build, we run automated tests and we view the results. If we find problems with the build itself, they'll block the build, or we can find bugs in the code, and that will possibly block the build. And the next thing that happens is that we do unit testing, and unit testing can provide metrics on the build, like pass-fail results, run duration, pass percentage, code coverage analysis, and as you see on the screen. And then by using a test manager, you configure specific environments in which to run your test cases. And then isolated unit test gives you the functional verification, and then the integration tests actually pull it all together and verify components.
This is our first time running through it with one mic. So while it's compiling, it's actually tracing everything it gets used. So if you use NPM, use NuGet, it'll actually walk through and then line by line tell you what's being included.
So here we're able to define a release definition, which will define where the application is deployed to, and the life cycle, it has everything from what is the preceding environment, and if it fails in that environment, it will not go on. And this is what demonstrates that. The green is good. If there were red X's there, it would block the deployment to go to any other environment.
And there are different ways of moving between environments. So there's different flavors. If you are right now doing a lot of manual integration, maybe that isn't an easy lift for you to just go flowing through each environment and having automatic approvals. That can be a cultural ramp up. We actually prefer continuous, which would be on the left, versus somebody handing you your deployments one by one and actually intervening when you really just want some software. Actually somebody interjecting themselves artificially into that process.
And tokenization is one of those things of high value for us because we're able to capture all of the environmental variables in each application and define them at this level. And when we do that, here you see we're able to define these variables here, and as we run a build and deployment defined by the environment, it'll transform these variables into configuration files, so you only have one build for every application.
From the database side, we're able to put a database into source control, package the changes, and automatically deploy them through the different environments, which frees up our DBA staff to work on some more advanced, complex tasks.
And then just like builds, there's different ways of getting deployments moved through the process. So when you actually deploy an application, there are dozens of components, and lending that every single time is a little bit of science. And it feels good knowing that when you say fire, it actually gets into prod with all of its components updated. So each approval has 2 steps. There's an entry and an exit. You can combine, you can use groups, you can have multiple approvers, and that way you allow the people that actually care about that environment to make the approval. And that's it. Easy.